Every small town in Alberta has a story about a building that isn't there anymore. Sometimes it's a cafe, sometimes a hotel, but more often than not, it's the general store. And if you look closely at these towns from the Peace River country down to the foothills, you can still see the outline of where some of those stores once stood. It makes you wonder why so many of them disappeared and what that says about the places they served. Hello and welcome to the video. If this is your first time here, my name is Mike. If you've been here before, my name is still Mike, but you would have known that already. General stores were among the first businesses to open in any prairie town. They arrived with the railway or the first cluster of homesteaders and carried everything a family needed to get through a season. Flour, nails, boots, lantern wicks, and mail, all under one roof. In many towns, the store doubled as the post office, or the meeting place, or the spot where you headed to hear the latest news long before it reached the newspaper. You can still find traces of some of them today. A faded sign on a brick wall, a storefront converted into a home, a wide wooden doorway that once held a bell above it, and in some towns, the building still stands, even if the shelves inside have been empty for years. What shaped these stores was the same thing that shaped the towns around them: distance, weather, and the slow, steady rhythm of rural life. People depended on the general store because it was close, because it was familiar, and because it was run by someone who knew every family by name. But as highways improved and larger centers grew, the pattern began to shift. A weekly trip to a bigger grocery store became easier than relying on a small one. Rail lines closed, farms consolidated, and the population of many towns began to thin out. The general store model, built for a time when people stayed close to home, struggled to keep up with a world that was moving faster and farther. And that's the quiet answer to why so many general stores disappeared. It wasn't one moment or one decision. It was a gradual change in how people lived, traveled, and shopped. The stores didn't fail because they were forgotten. They faded because the communities around them changed shape. What remains today are the reminders. The buildings still standing, the empty lots where a foundation once sat, and the stories from people who remember what it was like to push open the door on a winter morning and feel the warmth and hear that familiar bell. Across Alberta, towns are still here, even if the general stores aren't. Some have found new life as cafes or small grocery stores. Others sit quietly, part of the landscape now, but shaped by the same forces that shape the towns themselves. What they leave behind is a sense of how these communities once worked, close-knit and practical, built around places where people gathered without thinking much about it. The general store may be disappearing, but its influence is still visible in the way these towns grew and the way they continue to adapt to whatever comes next. So if you enjoyed this little journey, give that like button a tap. It's free and oddly satisfying. If you haven't subscribed yet, just know I share a new story every week, weather permitting, of course. Feel free to pass this along to your aunt, your neighbor, or that one friend who still thinks Alberta ends at Calgary. They need this more than they know. And you'll still find gradient imaging on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok because apparently I'm not busy enough. But until next week, drive safe, wave at strangers, and take the scenic route.